Major General John M. Schofield, in addressing troops at West Point in 1879, said, "The discipline which makes soldiers of a free country reliable in battle is not to be gained by harsh or tyrannical treatment. On the contrary, such treatment is far more likely to destroy than to make an army." Ladies and gentlemen, that is what leadership is all about. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's try this again now that we're not dealing with the dogs in the background. Hey, before we get started, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you disagree with what I have to say, let me know that in the comments. And go ahead and subscribe so you can hate watch. I promise it doesn't help the channel. All right. We said we're going to talk about leadership, and I'm kind of obsessed with it right now based on some stuff that's been going on and what's going on at work. So, the 11 principles of leadership are something that you had to memorize when I first went in the Army for promotion boards and Trooper of the Month boards and things like that. But they really are good rules to live by as a leader. What we're going to talk about today is the first two. Know yourself and seek self-improvement, and be technically and tactically proficient. Now, as a leader, you should never stop growing. That's why knowing yourself and seeking self-improvement is a really good thing. You should always be reading. You should always be growing. You should always be trying to take yourself at next level. And that's, if you're in the military, you read books, military biography, strategy, but you also look at books from the civilian side too, because there's a lot of great leadership books out there written by mayors and governors, city managers. I have more books about public administration I'll probably ever know what to do with, but they are very useful, especially when it comes to trying to help an organization build. Now, in the military, knowing yourself and seeking self-improvement, the military really is a good example. Yes, I've admitted before, there are some people that slip through the cracks that shouldn't. But in the long run, the rule is always, they've tried to enforce, select, educate, promote. And at times, there's been ups and downs about trying to get that done based on backlogs and deployments and things like that. They do a much better job than most civilian sector jobs do in trying to train people. Now, some civilian companies have done a great job of trying to build those learning pathways. When you, the first 90 days, here's the classes you need to take. The next 90 days, through the first year. And as you move into management, they're trying to build the same things. And that's a good thing. Because now you have managers who are becoming leaders, or becoming trained leaders, and natural leaders who are still honing that edge in the civilian world. By the same token, this applies in your personal life. Because in your personal life, you should strive to learn and grow as a person. That could be formal education. That could be bettering yourself as a husband and father, or a mother and wife. And you do that by learning and growing and opening yourself. It goes back to Johari's window, even though it does. Every time I see it, I have flashbacks to going to school in the military because we talk about it a lot. But Johari's window, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yeah, you see them everywhere in all these classes. But the reason you see them is they lay out a very firm foundation of understanding human nature. And the better you understand human nature, the better leader you will become, because you understand what people need. Because everybody's a little bit different. And as a leader, be that the military, in a business, or in your family, everybody's needs are a little bit different. And because of that, they each have a different trigger, which will get them to perform at the optimum level. And if you can put your finger on it with each individual, in the military, as you move up, you have less direct contact with everybody, but you have span of control. So you'll have 3 to 6 subordinates, and then you reach out and you figure out how to get them to perform. And you mentor and teach them. And then they do that to the soldiers under them. In the business world, you have the CEO, CFO, CTO, CIO. You have all these people in the corporation. Now, if they do the same thing and then they work their way down to C-suite, then to mid-level managers, then to those frontline supervisors. Then you're growing your own staff. Now, in a family, you do that with your children. You teach them to be confident in themselves. You teach them to become leaders. And that's how they'll succeed in life. But if you don't continue to grow and study and know what's going on and kind of get some outlook on what changes are coming, because remember we talked about it. A leader has a vision. A leader sees out ahead and knows or at least tries to make an educated guess on what the next trends are going to be so that business can succeed. Well, it's the same way, especially in your family. I mean, look at the fentanyl opioid crisis that we're dealing with now. And there's a lot of reasons we could point at. And there is no true way to guarantee that your family won't be affected by it, because at this point, almost all families have been directly impacted. Farthest away from most people is a cousin. But even though it's happened, how do you learn? How do you grow? How do you gain the tools to help them recover from that? Because they're still your family. You still love them. I will tell you now, based on personal experience, 20 years of drug use that was started by prescription meds that were taken the right way that became an addiction. And the one I watched go through that still has the same heart he had before he went into it. And I thank God for that every day. And I apologize if you're not religious, but I do. I thank God every day that he still has the same heart he did when he went into it, because a lot of people don't. But had family members given up on him, some of them did, but had other family members not given up on him, where would he be now? And I see him every time I go down there, and it makes me happy just to know that he's okay and he's still alive. So think about that, because you have to learn tools to deal with things like this. And as long as you do that, then you will always grow. Remember, know yourself and seek self-improvement. That also means admitting your shortcomings. If you're not willing to admit your shortcomings in yourself, and that's hard to do, it is hard to sit down and do that self-evaluation and go, oh, wow, yeah, I did screw that up. And I did it in the military. I've done it in the civilian world. And as a parent, I have definitely done it. As a parent and husband, I have definitely done that. And I've taken that good hard look in front of a mirror. And there are things that I cannot go back and change. I wish I could. All I can do going forward is to try to be a better person every day than I was the day before. And that's the same thing you can do, even if you haven't made those major mistakes. As long as you try to grow and become that better person, people will see that, and that will avoid some of those issues that can happen.
Naughty Black Dog says, like, subscribe, and share.
Now we'll try to fix that black space so that doesn't happen again. All right. The next one we're going to talk about is being technically and tactically proficient. Now, in the military, this is real easy to explain. It's understanding this is how my weapon works. This is how all the weapons on a fire team work. These are tactics used by a fire team to do an ambush, to cross a road, cross a stream. That is tactics and techniques. But it works the same way in the business world, because take insurance, for an example. Depending on what market you're in for insurance, whether it's PNC or major medical or voluntary benefits, there's certain rules that they go by. And when you're getting into it, you have a script that you work on, you learn what the products are, you learn how they can help people, and then you start selling. But to be truly proficient in it, you've got to sit down with you got to understand all facets of how that business works. So you sold a policy, you sold a company on using your products. Well, how does that benefits counselor sit down and talk to people? You sit down next to them, so then you understand, okay, yeah, because they're the experts on each product. Just like a squad leader is an expert on how to employ a squad. And he does that by studying and learning and growing. He starts off as a soldier, then he's a team leader, then he's a squad leader, then he's a platoon sergeant. And you learn these skills as you go. And the really smart ones, what I learned very early on is when you're a soldier, you're hanging out with team leaders and learning. As a team leader, it's the squad leaders. As a squad leader, it's the platoon sergeants. As a platoon sergeant, it's the first sergeant. And you build these skills, and they build gradually. Well, in a civilian world, it can be a very similar model. if you're just on a floor of some factory, but you're paying attention to what your shift supervisor is doing, because one day there's going to be an opening there. And if they see that you put that effort out to learn what they do, then there's a good chance you're going to move in that position. Same thing when you go from that to mid-level management, all the way up to the CEO of a company. It can happen. It can easily happen. But if you don't understand how the facets of what you're in control of work, and if you're in charge of it, you do not have to be an expert. That's the biggest mistake people make, is they go from just being in charge to being a micromanager. Because a good leader puts the right people in place that are experts. Because at a certain level, you become technically and tactically proficient at picking the right people and entrusting them. But you still got to know what they do. So when something comes up, you can put your finger on where the problem might lie. Your personal life is a little bit different. But it's, what are your skills as a father or mother? What do you do? Well, I'm a great cook, so I'm going to keep cooking. But my spouse can't cook at all. Well, what happens when a job situation changes? So now you're going to work 12 hours a day and then come home and have to cook because your spouse can't. No, you cross-train in doing these things. Dealing with kids. Some people are better than others with dealing with kids, but if you decide to have them as a parent, you both got to do a decent job of taking care of them. Now, how do you do that? Well, you increase your skills. There's a famous saying, all these books when you're having a baby, none of them really matter because the babies haven't read them yet. And I truly believe that, but there are certain skills you can do. You can work on your patience. You have yoga, you have meditation. I will tell you now, for the most part, crying babies has never bothered me. I don't know why, but it's never been a stressor to me. In fact, in some ways, it was okay, it allowed me to focus because, okay, the baby's crying, what's wrong? Are they dirty? Do they need food? And this is being tactically and technically proficient as a parent, as a manager. Okay, wait, there's a slowdown on the assembly line. Okay, where did it happen at? Okay, who's in charge of that? Okay, how much experience do they have? Okay, is there major components there that could have failed? And if you understand these things, then you can put your finger on what happened and you can make improvements with it. These principles are very functional in the civilian world. It's also why I have the same background up now, and I'm going to have as we continue through this whole thing. And part of the basis of this is there's a huge, huge, huge bonus that businesses can get. And that's from the trades to professional skill, to professions, excuse me. And that you have people come out of the military that have been formally trained in leadership. They have management skills because they've used it. The example I use a lot of the time is I'm a paratrooper through and through. I always have been. From the time I went in the Army as a kid. Didn't even have to shave every day. And the example I use is you take a 17, 18-year-old kid, you throw them out of a plane at 2 o'clock in the morning. When they hit the ground, they're expected to find their way in the dark to an assembly area. That could be a Steiner aid, which is like a sign up on a pole with IR chem lights, or it could be something as small as a Phoenix beacon, which is this little blinky thing that you can see through knots. And you could set it like Morse code for how it blinks. But the expectation is that 17 or 18-year-old kid is going to jump out of a plane with all their equipment, maintain that equipment, find where they're supposed to go, and then do a follow-on mission. Now, that kid may have night vision device, a weapon, a radio, depending on what their job is in the military. They could have a whole bunch of other sensitive equipment. And the expectation is they can do that and do it again and again and again and again. How do they get that way? Then at that level, for what their job is, they're technically and tactically proficient. Why can't you do that with every facet of your life? And businesses, they are leaving the military in droves. Go down to your job center, talk to your vet rep, talk to your business liaisons there, and tell them you want to recruit veterans. Even if you're not positive they'll fit, interview them. Their resume may not match, interview them anyway. Because if you recruit to culture and train a skill, you'd be surprised of the quality you're going to get out of that. And veterans, as you're getting out and you start looking at these jobs, swing for the bleachers. You had nothing to lose. What's the biggest thing they could do? Say no. That's one of the biggest things I've learned since I moved into sales is the worst thing somebody could do is say no. There isn't no 120 millimeter rocket coming at me. All it is a no. I go to the next place or make the next phone call. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks. Look, like, subscribe, share. Let me know in the comments what you think. That's the best thing you can do to help the channel. I don't think anybody's really going to disagree with anything I'm putting out in these videos. So just check them out. They're going to get better as we go. I'm still kind of feeling my way through this after being gone for, 8 months? Almost a year, actually. But now we're back into it. It's only going to be Thursday videos for a while because of some other stuff that's going on. And I kind of want to focus on leadership as opposed to getting more into politics because that turns some people off. So I'll focus on something that's truly near and dear to my heart, which is leadership. But everybody have a great evening. And remember the words of John F. Kennedy. Dare to fail greatly. Because if you do not dare to fail greatly, you're never truly a leader.